Alright, now we will discuss secularism. Okay, so to talk about secularism, which is an important feature of the Indian constitution as well as one of the area in which it faces challenge. Okay, because the secularism, to understand secularism, first we need to understand the original version of secularism, which is a European idea, right? Europe during the 16th and 17th century, okay, it faced a lot of wars. Okay, it faced a lot of wars, like 8-9 million people died during the 30-year war. Okay, 30-year war. Okay, so the 30-year war, 1616 to 1648, it ended with the Treaty of Westphalia, which established the concept of nation state. Okay, sovereignty, non-interference, okay, territorial integrity. Okay, those principles that our current international system follows, it came from the end of the 30-year war, which was a war between the Holy Roman Empire, which was primarily a Catholic, community, Catholic religion, versus Sweden, Denmark, various other states. So the Holy Roman Empire is currently the Italy, Germany, areas like that. Okay, so we are not going to discuss too much about that. I just gave you a background. So please understand the concept of secularism. After the 30-year war was actually primarily triggered by a conflict between Catholics as well as Protestants. Protestantism, the Reformation, that actually happened as a consequence of Renaissance. Renaissance happened due to the plague happened, a lot of people died, right? About 1/3 of the European population died. It actually improved the quality of life for the people who left back. So a lot of interrelated things are there. So one event led to another, it led to Renaissance, it led to people questioning the authority of church. Okay, questioning the principles, okay, questioning Martin Luther and all those things happened, and Protestantism actually came up. The Protestantism and Catholic, that conflict triggered the 30-year war. And after the 30-year war, the Western community, they understood that if religion is controlling or directing the state affairs, it is going to cause a lot of conflict. Okay, people understood that if religion is allowed to control the state affairs, it is going to cause a conflict, it is going to cause a lot of wars, it is going to cause a lot of misery. So the religion has to be separated from the state affairs. Okay, religion should remain in the private affairs of your home. It should not be visible out in the public. Okay, it should be treated as separate from religion. That is how we reach what we call as the negative secularism. Negative secularism. Why it is negative? Because the state is prohibited from going and intervening into the religion. Negative. Okay, it cannot go there. It is prohibited. That negative idea is there. Okay, religion also will not enter into the state domain. State will not go into the religious domain. Okay, that is the negative secularism of that is in Europe. That is the original idea of secularism. But India, you take the history of India, we will see that there was no such large scale bitter conflict among India on the basis of religion. Okay, Indian, that if you look at Hinduism, there's a lot of accommodation, there's a lot of tolerance. Even after the Islam invasion actually happened, a lot of the practices got syncretism, right? Syncretism is actually our way of life. So there is a difference between how we evolved, our history as well as the history of Europe. So here there was no need for secularism because religion coexisted with the state. Okay. So even during Mughal times, religion was dominant in state affairs, but it was not the only concern of the state. Power, okay, acquiring more political power remained a crucial, the anchor of the state. Okay, religion never completely dominated state policies in India. Okay, but religion was part of our, part of our culture, part of our way of life. Okay, take the case of 1857. The revolt was immediately triggered when the British reforms actually touched their raw nerve, the religious nerve. Okay, when they gave inheritance rights to illegitimate, Let's Loki Act was passed, the General Service Enlistment Act Okay, where if you are serving in the army, you will have to serve abroad. You have to write an agreement that there is no problem. But if you cross abroad, you will use your religion. Such superstition was there. So whenever the religious things are going to be reformed or touched or questioned or interfered with, then everything will blow up. But if you look at if that cultural cultural, what you can say, outlook towards religion is still followed today. If you look at today, say a person is incarcerated for a long period of time in the jail under a UAP or any act. You have that Umar Khalid, lot of issues are there, like 5-6 years without trial. The public will have sentiments, okay, they are bothered, but compare that to a particular reform that affects religious tenets. Okay, that affects religious policies. Okay, the public outrage will be huge. The public response will be, backlash will be huge. That is because in India, religion is part of our DNA. You cannot separate it from the state affairs. Okay, but still, our constitutional makers knew that religion could not direct the state policy. Okay, there are certain issues. If say there is an official religion, okay, some issues will come up. Because why? If you look at the preamble once again, it is we the people of India, right? It is we the people of India. So the constitution is actually for every religion. So if there is one particular religion as taken as official, we will no longer be secular. Okay, it would also mean that there is one particular community will be excluded. Okay, and that will cause a lot of conflicts, damages. Okay, it will lead to inter-religious domination. Right, inter-religious domination. Okay, we need to prevent that. We need to assuage our minorities. Everybody can live in India. Right, that was the ideal of society we created during 1948, 1946. Right. So for that peaceful coexistence, all the minority rights need to be protected. So to ensure that, a form of secularism is needed. Okay. Then next, the inside a particular religion also several practices will be there. Derogatory practices will be there. Right. Like for example, take the case of there is a practice of female genital mutilation by the Dawoodi Bohra community. Right. Okay. So that is actually violating Article 21, bodily autonomy of people. It is also discriminating women and girls, right? Article 14 violation, Article 15 violation. So whenever a religion has any practice that contradicts with fundamental rights, then the state should have power to intervene. That is also a peculiar to India, right? Because there are a lot of social evils, temple entry to the lower caste. So state should retain power to enforce no discrimination, untouchability. To state should have the power to intervene into the religion if that religion is going against the tenets of the constitution. Okay, so a form of secularism is also needed to ensure, to prevent intra-religious domination. Okay, then to ensure individual freedoms. Okay, individual freedoms like that, the female genital mutilation case. Then what else? Temple entry we mentioned. What's the other case? Triple talaq, right? Triple talaq is also another issue. Okay, it is violating the what you can say, dignity, right? It is also discriminating against women, right? Because women can be subject to triple talaq. That similar kind of like practice do they have for men? So there is artificial creation of a classification of for women when triple talaq is actually created, right? So that is again violation of Article 14, 15 as well. Okay, so to protect for individual freedoms also, state should be given the power to intervene. So we follow positive secularism. Positive. Why is it called positive? Because the state actively intervenes to correct certain aspects of the religion. So I hope these ideas are clear. Okay. So if you look at certain constitutional provisions that actually ensures secularism. Okay. So like for example, if you look at Article 25 itself. Article 25 is actually a right for an individual to practice, profess and propagate a certain religion, right? But it is subjected to public order, morality, okay, morality or health, public health. Then what else? Other. All right, everyone. So let's continue where we left off in Indian secularism. So basically, Indian secularism, there is three objectives. Okay, the first objective is to prevent inter-religious domination, that is from one religious community dominating the other. Then you have to prevent, the second objective is to prevent intra-religious domination. From within one religion also, there will be different groups. Okay, different groups within one religion. Okay, to prevent from one group from dominating the other within a particular religion. And then you need to protect religious rights. Okay, religious rights have to be protected. Another important objective is actually to protect individual rights. Okay, the individual also has specific rights. To protect the individual religious rights are also part of the constitutional objectives for ensuring secularism. Okay, so if you look at the first important idea, that is to prevent inter-religious domination. Okay, so if you look at India, there are various instances of where one religion has been targeted, right? If you look at the 1984 time, the Sikhs were targeted after Indira Gandhi's assassination. The Sikh religious community was actually targeted, right? Then you have during the 1990s, the Kashmiri Pandits were actually targeted for their Hindu identity in the Kashmir Valley, right? And their exodus was discussed. Then in 2002, we can see the Gujarat riots, right? A lot of Muslim communities and Hindu communities, they were all targeted on the basis of their religion. So the constitution tries to prevent this kind of situations. Okay, although the practical reality is actually a different paradox, but that is actually we have to go into the political aspect. Don't need to go into those kind of things. Just know that these communities, there has been instances where a community has been targeted on the basis of religion, and this is something that the constitution has provisions to prevent. Okay, constitution has provisions to prevent that. How so? There is a secular state, that is, state can intervene, right? So we will look into the Indian model. Okay, certain keywords we will discuss, but this is something that constitution tries to prevent. Okay, then you have intra-religious domination. Okay, so for example, gender. Okay, so we can see women in certain religion, they have been treated unfairly, which is a violation of Article 14, right? Like for example, you have the Shabarimala case, right? Women from 10 to 50 age group was not allowed to enter. Then you have the triple talaq case, right? Where the Muslim husband can actually divorce the Muslim wife if he pronounces talaq 3 times, right? Talaq-e-bidat, I think it was the word. Anyway, that was actually banned after 2017 in the Shayara Bano case. Then what else? Then women entering the Haji Ali Dargah, right? That was actually prohibited practice in 2016. I think it was Dr. Noora Saifuddin case. In that case, the Supreme Court held that women should be allowed to enter into the inner sanctum of a dargah, right? Haji Ali Dargah. So there again, to protect the gender within a religion. Okay, then within a religion, sectarian clash will be there, right? You know about the caste discrimination will be there, right? So recently there was an article in Hindu that told that there was like a 19-year-old pregnant woman. I think the name was Daddamani, or it was in Tamil Nadu. A 19-year-old pregnant woman was actually killed. Okay, so dishonor killings. Okay, I think we need to stop calling it honor killings, we need to call it dishonor killings, right? So dishonor killings are there within a religion, right? Caste discrimination, right? Untouchability practices. So constitution has provisions to prevent that as well. Okay, so that is also another aspect. Then the constitution tries to protect the religious freedoms, right? Article 26. Right, Article 26 gives rights to the religion to establish and administer institutions for religious and charitable purposes, to administer them, to buy immovable property. Okay, so all these rights are given by the constitution to ensure that secularism exists. Okay, but Indian model of secularism. Okay, Indian model of secularism. Okay, so this is just a paradox, right? Even if this is the constitutional provisions, we see that there are, practices by the politicians, by the political parties, various vested groups are there. They actually promote enmity, which is actually a corrupt offense under the Representation of People's Act in 1951, right? Asking, votes on the basis of religion, spreading, community, divide. Okay, so all these are actually reality. Okay, so that is there, but we have provisions to prevent that as well. Okay, so this is the examples for inter-religious domination. Okay, so again, sectarian violences are there. Okay, sectarian violences within a religion, like for example, the Shia-Sunni conflict, right? Shia-Sunni conflict. Then what else? That Protestant Catholics. So if you look at the across the world, the sectarian conflicts within a religion are there. So our constitution has provisions to prevent against such kind of intra-religious domination as well. Okay. Okay. So what makes Indian state secular? So we will now discuss about the Indian model. So certain keywords you need to remember is equal distance. Okay, equal distance, equal respect. Okay, principled intervention. Okay, so these are some keywords that you can actually use in your answer if it's question regarding secularism. Some people may combine equal in the, I think it was equidistance, principled distance, right? Principled distance is another keyword, but you can just split it, right? Principled intervention and equal distance. Okay, so basically the state maintains equal distance with all religion. Okay, so there is no official religion. There is no official religion. Okay, so there is no official religion. So there is equal respect, right? Equal respect for all religious practices. So basically, we look at the origin of the Western model of secularism. In India, religion is part of our DNA. Okay, so I told you like there is widening inequality, a lot of issues are there. But if you touch a religious nerve in India, it will explode, right? Everything will go to hell, right? If you touch the religious aspect. So religion is part of our public sphere. We have to accept it. It is impossible to follow the Western model. Okay, in Western model, France, it's a perfect example for secularism where they banned that face covering veil in public places. Right, burqa, right? So that was banned, right? And also hijab is also, headscarves are also banned in certain public schools during public duty. Okay, that is also there. But that will not be possible in India. Why? Because it is in our DNA. It is impossible to separate state from public, religion from public sphere. Okay, so the only way we can is actually follow equal respect. Okay, equal respect. That is the model. That is our what we actually practice. Okay, like for example, the state cannot differentiate in the basis of religion if they want to, what you can say, give grants or anything like that. Okay, just understand that there is equal respect. Okay, then you have what is known as the principled intervention, which is the most important aspect of Indian secularism model, where the state can actually intervene into religious matter. Like for example, if you look at Article 25, which actually provides an individual with certain rights, religious rights, but there is sub-clauses that actually allows the state to govern, regulate the political, secular, financial activity. Okay, the political activity that can be regulated. There is also another clause that allows the state to intervene to ensure that the Hindu institutions are open to all. That is expressly there in the Indian constitution. So there is provisions through which state can intervene provided some constitutional ideals are being threatened. Okay, some constitutional morality is there. Okay, so there is intervention. Okay, so another key thing regarding the Indian secular model is that it is not a theocratic state. Not theocratic. So if you look at theocratic state, Iran is a very, it's actually kind of like the Islamic Republic. Iran is actually Islamic Republic. The supreme leader, kind of like what we see in that movie Dictator, the supreme leader is actually that Ali Khamenei, right? So you also have a president. right? Iran doesn't have a president who is actually elected, but the candidates are vetted by the religious institutions. Then you have the supreme leader. Okay, supreme leader is actually elected by a group which is actually what you can say, although they are popularly elected, they are actually vetted by clerics, right? So religion dictates policy. Okay, religion dictates policy. Okay, look at Vatican City. Okay, Pope is the head of state. Alright, so how they are actually elected based on the religious scriptures, religious practice. Assembly of Cardinals, I think, College of Cardinals, right? College of Cardinals, they actually elect the Pope. So that is established as per the religion. So religion dictates how institutions will function. Religious law, Taliban is an extremely theocratic state, right? Everything is happening as per the Sharia law, right? The extremeness. Okay, exclusion of women, everything is directed as per religious norms. If that happens, then you are in a theocratic state. Okay, if our head of state is elected, we are in a republic, right? If it is as per hereditary, then it's actually monarchy. But then again, so India is not a theocratic state. Our head of state is actually elected. President is our head of state. He is indirectly elected, right? Anyway, so there we do not have official religion. Then non-religious goals. That is, our state, the objective of our state is to pursue constitutional goals: equality, liberty, dignity, justice, right? So all these are constitutional goals. They are not goals dictated by a particular religion. So please understand, these are keywords that you can actually use in questions on secularism. Okay, now comparison with the Western and Indian secularism, we already saw it. So mutual exclusion. In West France, we saw mutual exclusion, public sphere and private sphere. Okay, they cannot be intervened. Okay, so in a Western model, there is a huge focus for individual right. Okay, individual right. There is less scope for protection for minority. Okay, so here in the Western, in the public sphere, where you know the discussion, deliberation, everything happens, the political action actually happens. In that sphere, the identity of a person is not what you can say his minority identity, his religious identity. That is not what people actually see. I mean the concept. Okay, in the Western idea, in the Western society, the people do not actually see that religious identity is not what they actually see. Like for example, Zohran Mamdani actually won as the New York mayor. One of the reason is because of the Western secularism. That model actually says that the public do not actually see his Muslim identity, right? They see his merit, they see his character, they see his ability. Okay, I mean like the theory. Okay, there are contradicting views, there are other views, that politics is there. Keep that aside. This is the idea. Okay, this is the idea. But look at the Indian model. Here individual and community rights will be respected, right? State will support religious reforms. If it is in violation of constitution, state will intervene, right? Inter-religious minority rights are protected, right? 29-30, right? So there are separate rights that protect minority rights in Indian secularism. So minorities are also being protected. Okay, this is comparison with the US. Okay, in the US, the First Amendment actually says that state cannot establish a religion. There is no official religion. There is a strict separation there as well. Okay, here we have a principal distance. Okay. Okay. Now this is something that actually flows from the Nehruvian idea, the Gandhian idea. Okay, religion is part of our DNA. We have to accept it. Okay, state cannot become anti-religious. Okay, the state cannot become anti-religious. So state should accept that there is religion. Okay, state should not behave as like there is no religion, like in the West. There is a religion, but if it is violating with our constitutional morality, we will intervene. State will intervene, judiciary will intervene, legislature will intervene. Okay, that is the idea. Okay, so state will reform. Okay, so it is against communalism. Okay, it is against communalism. Okay. So one of the common ideas that we see in the public discussion now in India is actually how secularism actually led to minority appeasement. This is one of the things that usually comes up. But for minority appeasement to happen, there should be something that only the minority gets, and it is taken from the majority. Okay, then you can say appeasement is there. You take something from the majority, you give it to the minority, then you can say appeasement happens. But if you look at Article 25 to 28, okay, these rights are available for the majority also. Okay, these rights are available for the majority also, provided it's actually essential religious practices, okay, and all those things are there. But that is the same criteria are on the basis of for which minority practices are also governed. Okay, so there is no what you can say appeasement, right? If you look at Article 29, it provides for any section of the society, any section of the community with a distinct language, script or culture, right? So it is again applicable to all communities. One question in this idea is regarding Article 30. So people usually say Article 30 is exclusively for minority, right? Isn't that affecting the majority? But one thing regarding that Article 30 is actually to right to establish and administer educational institutions. So basically the idea was, okay, this is the concept, okay, this is the conceptual ideas. In a public sphere, if there is a majority community, already everything, what you can say, the public sphere is actually reflecting the aspirations of majority. Why? Because they are a majority. Like if you look at symbolism, okay, what is our national symbol? Lion capital at Sarmat, right? Ashokan, Mauryan Empire. That is actually from the majority community, right? If you look at social capital, if you look at political capital, okay, at the national level, you can see the leaders, the political leaders, the voice of majority is there already. Okay, that is there. So the rights under Article 30 is to ensure that the minority rights are protected. It is a protective right. Okay, it is a protective right. Okay, it is kind of like giving a wheelchair to a disabled person. Okay, so you are not actually taking something from the majority and giving to the minority. The minority is being protected. Okay, that is it. Okay, so that what you can say, when they are taking part in the public space, public sphere, their identity is protected. There is no need for protecting the majority as such, because the public sphere is already, this is the idea, okay, this is the theory. The practical reality may be different, the what you can say, the political aspect may be different, but this is the idea behind it. Okay, the public sphere is already reflecting the aspirations of majority, okay, by theory. Okay, so Indian secularism is not anti-religion. It is not a Western import, obviously. It's not a Western import, and it is also not minority appeasement. Okay. Okay, now personal laws. Okay, so basically another thing you need to know is, say you have personal laws of, that is laws governing marriage, divorce, inheritance, everything, succession. So certain kind of these laws, these are personal laws. So if a religion has personal laws, okay, and if it is unfairly treating any, like there is a constitutional violation happens, okay, article equality is violated, discrimination is violated, something is happening, should the state respect that practice based on that equal respect, okay, equal respect, equal distance, and keep distance, or should it enforce principled intervention? Okay, so the answer is principled intervention can be followed provided there is some constitutional objective. So in India, one thing you have to remember, constitution is supreme. Okay, so that is our religion, right? That is our identity. So everything is checked on the altar of constitution. So the state can intervene, right? The 2005 Hindu Marriage Act amendment actually made doctors co-parceners, right? That is a progressive intervention. Okay, so even personal laws can be intervened provided that there is some constitutional ideal violation or fundamental rights violation, something happens, then state can intervene. So basically that is the gist of our Indian secularism, our model. So this applies to all the religion. So in the UPSC, when you study for real UPSC, you need to know the case laws. Okay, you will know about the essential practices doctrine. essential practices doctrine will be studied, right? And arguments in favor, arguments in against. Okay, so what makes court expert? Okay, that so a lot of arguments are there. Okay, how much the state can intervene. Okay, so these are the things you would learn at the UPSC when you study for UPSC preparation. But these are the fundamental basics. Okay, so I hope you understood the session. Okay, thank you.